news and notes to the coaches and players for America's team, let us go inside the stars on 105.3 The Fan.
Good morning, Metroplex. Hopefully you had a fantastic weekend. In case you did not know, we are your official station of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers. I'm Shan alongside Ralph James Choppy and our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt.
Got you down.
With a couple of, well, I wouldn't impersonate Chris Arnold too much if you listen to him over the weekend. More on that coming up. But we got some Dak and CeeDee updates.
Yes, we do. So, not a huge surprise when you see the headline that the Cowboys are pretty passive in pursuing Dak Prescott contract extension. No new update there, but Jeremy Fowler over the weekend was on SportsCenter, and they were doing kind of a Q&A back and forth with him, and they had asked him about, hey, where are these talks with Dak Prescott? And he said, hey, look, it's been pretty passive at this point, slow, not a lot of communication. But one of the things that he did say there was that he was told by a source with the team that the notion that the Cowboys don't want to keep Dak Prescott beyond 2024 when he'll be a free agent next year is false. They still believe in him firmly. So the question really becomes, and what do
you think of Fowler, by the way?
I like him. He's done a good job in the last couple of years. Like, when you get behind the curtain and you see how people operate and the way that they do their job, he's done a good job of building himself up. So I like Jeremy Fowler. I think he's good. But here, the thing at this point is, okay, so are the Cowboys just brazenly lying about wanting to keep him? Or do they somehow believe that this tactic, which we all look at and go, if you want to keep him, this isn't the way to go about it? Do they somehow believe that playing it this way is advantageous to them in their plans of we're going to keep him for a long time? Which one is it? Is it they're just mismanaging this, or they're lying about their intentions with him?
I mean, we'll find out, I guess, right? There's no way of knowing today.
That's the point of the topic.
Yeah.
And the segment is for you to give your guess.
I don't have. That's the
I know
thing.
we'll find out, Mickey.
We'll find out. I don't. Nobody has a guess. There's no way to guess. It's
what's the famous quote? Never attribute to malice that which can be attributed to incompetence.
Oh, that's your second one today.
Yeah, I know. This is what I'm doing. I've been reading quote books over the weekend. But the idea basically is, don't assume somebody's trying to F with you. Like, it's easier to just assume they just did it wrong or they mismanaged it. They're not trying to ruin you.
I think this is year 7, 8. What's that? 3-4 years for Dak?
5th year, 6th year.
This is when you date for 8 years and you're still kind of undecided before you get engaged. I think that they use some of this stuff as a convenient excuse to still evaluate him and wait and see. That's my best guess.
That can't be it. I'm not saying you're wrong. Let's say.
Well, you did. I mean, just to say I was wrong. Why can't that be it? Because here's the new narrative on him. Fantastic regular season, beats up the scrubs, and now a lot of the Metroplex and a lot of this building believes that he is a playoff choker. So my theory, I'm not reporting it like I did Micah.
Careful, ML football.
My theory is that this is another wait and see. Okay, fine, you go 11-5, you go 12-4. But if we have another first round disaster and you play like you did against the Packers, we're moving on. You're not getting that next deal. That's my theory. It's still a wait and see. I think they're still evaluating him, and now evaluating him as a playoff quarterback. That's my guess.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. But, I've never seen an organization so indecisive on these things.
Or at least on the quarterback.
Right? They're coming. They're like...
It's a long evaluation.
They've been evaluating this guy for 8 years.
It's like when you find out, they're not engaged yet, or they're still engaged. They've been engaged for 3 years.
So
because he's waiting for something better, or he's waiting for a way to. He got publicly pressured to get engaged.
So isn't the thought process then, since I think we all agree, that's a long time to be evaluating?
Yeah.
Shouldn't the thought process be that they probably do have their mind made up in either direction then, and what they're saying is Like what Jeremy Fowler.
I don't think they made it up. I think what I just described is the definition of middle.
I think
we want to be swayed. We're waiting for a playoff result or run to be swayed.
I think the other thing is that they've been in charge here for so long. I don't think they can fully wrap their brains around the idea that you have to pay a quarterback that kind of money. When they bought this franchise, now Troy never got the credit for winning the 3 championships. Never. It was always Emmett. It was always Troy. Like you don't have a quarterback, you don't win. Nobody wins 3 Super Bowls without a quarterback. You just don't, right? You just don't. And that's the only way they won is when they had a first-round quarterback. But he never got the credit for it. It was always Emmett. It was always Jimmy.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people in the organization does it take before you get to Troy? They cannot wrap their brains around the notion that a quarterback is that important. That a quarterback is 30% of the cap important.
I think history also, again, all these are theories, but I think history also shows Jerry Jones's ego is so big and it's so large, he's willing to lose money. He's willing to hurt his own cap by not giving the contracts when they're supposed to be given, which is earlier or like at the time. He'd rather wait a year or 2 and cost himself more pie, because that's what he's doing by his own definition. Every cent you give here, you lose a cent there. And I think because of his ego or their ego, it ends up costing them of, nope, you're not going to tell me when to do it. I'm going to do it when I want to do it.
So if Kirk didn't get hurt this year, does Minnesota re-sign him?
Good question.
I think so. Probably. I mean, I guess I don't know with certainty, but I would lean towards yes.
Yeah, I mean, like,
but then follow up. Did they not re-sign him because of an injury fear?
It was the Achilles, though, right? So
yeah, you have the Achilles.
Age.
Somebody coming off an Achilles at that age is just, it can be a little questionable.
Like, is anyone talking about the Atlanta Falcons not having Kirk Cousins start off the year?
I haven't seen that,
right.
But I mean, it's certainly something that like you have to consider as a possibility, or at the very least, you're not going to get the version of him you think you're going to get.
Because
but
jokingly, everybody says Dak is the black Kirk Cousins, right? It's just whatever they just say.
You say that all the time.
But I mean, like, Minnesota took the approach like we've kind of peaked.
Yeah,
Kansas City did the same thing with Alex Smith. We hit our ceiling with him. And I wonder, like, if he didn't get hurt, because it's very hard to get away. It's very hard to walk away. Like, Kirk's a good quarterback. It's hard to walk away from that.
Yes,
it is. Now, they've already had to make one trade this offseason to pick up draft capital. They're going to have to package that together and make another trade. Like, that's the anticipation, is they're going to try to get up into the top 5 with the trade.
Who are you talking about?
Minnesota, yeah. So, like, you're talking about, you're having to swing multiple draft pick trades to get yourself, like, I think if they could have avoided that potential headache, avoided having to do that, they would have, if they felt like Kirk was healthy and good. But I mean, he's 36 with coming off an Achilles. That's tough.
So RJ's theory is maybe they can't get with the times. My theory is they're still evaluating him. What's yours? What's your theory?
My theory is that they're approaching their bills the way a lot of people do in America, where it's like, oh, okay, pay the minimum balance, and oh crap, I forgot the cable bill was due on the 18th, and now it's the 29th. Well, or like maybe looking to go, all right, looking at our finances, I can pay this bill, and I'll pay it with a penalty, but I can't pay it when it's due at the normal price. So I got to wait till my money's in order, and then I get, like, I think that's how they're approaching it. I think they're in a position right now where they're juggling so many different things of their own doing. Like, this is not anything where it's like, boy, they're really getting the screws put to them by the realities of being an NFL team. No, this is their own doing. But I think that they're...
But was it screw-ups or just a result of, quote-unquote, going for it, and now this is the price you pay?
I think they would probably say it's that.
Yeah, I know what they would say.
And so, because
what's the reality of it?
But I mean, I think they believe that. To me, it's... There's... You could have two people... This is the analogy I drew on Twitter the other day. You can have two people that are in $10,000 worth of credit card debt, right? Like, they're both facing the same financial reality of, how do I pay this off? Yeah, how do I pay this off? How do I
10 anymore? I'm down.
Nice.
How do I operate around this debt? Well, if one of these people got to the debt through, man, I had a car breakdown, I had a house repair, I had all these things I could not neglect, and I had to, all in the span of 2 weeks, it all hit me. I had to put it on my credit card, and now I'm faced with this debt, and there's nothing I could do, but I could not neglect it. There's one. Two, if you could have paid your bills on time, and you were just like, I don't really want to, and then ultimately you got some stuff stacking up, and then you took your credit card and went, I guess I'll pay off all these bills at once with this high-interest credit card. You're both in the same $10,000 debt position, but you're in there for very different reasons, and I think it matters why you got there.
What's the Lamb update?
Joel Corey over at CBS Sports, who we've had on the show before and is very plugged in still to the agent community and knows the way that agents look at building contracts and how they approach things, very consistently is able to call correctly what contract values are going to be. So he wrote about CeeDee Lamb's contract negotiations, and he said that Jerry has basically screwed himself on a potential holdout, because he said they have, what agents care about and what teams have a hard time arguing back against is precedent that they set. Forget league precedent, because Jerry always tries to say, well, that's what that team did. That's not what I did.
Yeah.
Well, they can go back and say, well, what you did was you allowed Zach Martin to hold you hostage, miss camp, build up the fines, and then you paid off the fines. So that's on you. So Joel Corey says that it's going to be really difficult if CeeDee Lamb wants to hold out, and if CeeDee Lamb wants to make things difficult on them, it's going to be really difficult for the Cowboys to argue back against the Zach Martin precedent that they sent last year. So, again, it's one of those ones where it's doesn't it make sense to go ahead and just get it done now if you can? Because if you don't get it done now, you're not just paying his fines hey, here, I'll do you a solid, buddy. You are paying his fines as a means of rolling it into his contract, which means you're costing yourself more cap space.